just returned from Afghanistan and joins us this morning to talk about the visit. Thanks for coming on.
Drew, thanks for having me.
What'd you see? What was it like over there? I mean, it's amazing to think that it's been 14 years since the initial invasion.
So what prompted the trip was President Obama took the decision to leave 10,800 approximately U.S. troops under NATO command, which is commanded by U.S. General John Campbell, has committed to leave them in country for at least through 2016. And this is a change in the Obama policy. So I wanted to first of all assess that. Was that a good decision? Are we in a good position there in working with the Afghan armed forces? And also look on the civilian side, what kind of progress is the Afghan coalition government making towards their own success? So it was a good trip.
On the 10,000, what's your assessment?
First of all, I think the president made a good decision. Here's what I heard. The Afghan army is, while it's still got an attrition challenge like you have in any force, they took 5,600 casualties this year so far. The Taliban has been more active in their assaults in Afghanistan than before President Obama's surge. So it's a bloody year in Afghanistan. But what General Campbell told us is they're taking the fight to the Taliban. They're not running. They're well coordinated, well commanded. They're using their resources well. But there are gaps. Air support, close air support is not where it should be. And that's something over this next year that the U.S. and NATO forces can work with Afghanistan to improve.
About the civilian side of it too. Yeah. Also, though, I watched a documentary this week about ISIS in Afghanistan and the growing influence of that organization there. It's been the Taliban that we've been mostly concerned about. How do you assess the potential for that organization to take hold?
Yeah, both points. First, on the civilian side, we met with a group of women, one of whom had just graduated from the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, with a Fulbright scholarship in cultural anthropology. This was a very bright, dedicated group of young women. And they are working hard to change the culture and future of Afghanistan. So that was inspiring. And you see those types of inspirational activity throughout the country. And yet, the week we were there, there was a stoning of a young woman accused of adultery by the Taliban. So you have this good news, bad news situation. But the Ghani Abdullah coalition government is trying to root out corruption, pull together, have provincial leadership, and run the country in a way I think that's got a future. Karzai was a corrupt guy, and he was our partner until this coalition was formed. And I think the Afghan people are in a much better place than they were under the Karzai government.
On ISIS?
ISIS has got a toehold in the country, down along the Pakistan border. It's small. It's considered by U.S. security forces as disaffected Taliban now associating themselves with ISIS under the ISIS flag as opposed to an influx. So it's still small, but they are carrying out attacks in the name of ISIS in the country of Afghanistan.
I wanted to talk to you about this House vote to make it more difficult for Syrian and Iraqi refugees to come into the country. Detractors said that basically that was an opportunistic approach, playing politics, using this as to score political points, because it would be an ineffective way for terrorists to get into the country by going through the refugee process. They could come in from Europe with visas.
Right.
Why was it not opportunistic?
Yeah. So the American people were overwhelmingly concerned about what they've seen in Europe. They're concerned about it, and part of that is two parts. One is interior enforcement on visas. Let me hold off on that a minute and address your question. Refugees have, in fact, been guilty of terrorist activities, in our country in recent years. And the FBI has 900 open cases of terror investigations in the country, and so people are concerned about it. What the House did was not ban Syrian refugees or Iraqi refugees. What the House did was put an additional certification layer over the existing Border Patrol and Department of State process. So when I read in the paper that there was a vote to ban Syrian or Iraqi refugees trying to come to the United States, that's not an accurate statement. What we're trying to do is keep the American people safe, and anyone who has a national security threat should not come into the United States.
As you assess the danger, Paris has been attacked, Washington, D.C., New York City, folks back here in Arkansas, I mean, do you hear that these smaller states, smaller cities could be on the potential attack list, or is this something reserved for the bigger targets of the country, or is there information on that?
Yeah, well, I think it's a good question, but those 900 cases that are open with the FBI are in all 50 states. And of course, we've seen a terrorist attack here in our attack on our 2 recruiters out on Rodney Parham Road here in Little Rock. We've seen Hassan's attack down at Fort Hood. So people in the interior of the country are concerned about Al-Qaeda or ISIS-styled Islamic terrorist-themed attacks, just like people on the 2 coasts are.
All right, Congressman French Hill, thanks so much for the discussion.
Happy Thanksgiving.